The 1600s French playwright Molière once stated that the duty of comedy is to correct men by amusing them. Amusing is the word in that sentence I would like to focus on, as what is colloquially known as dark humour has sparked many conflicts verbally online. Some people find dark humour hilarious. Some people find it the root of all evil. White girls say it's all racist. So when, or is it even ever acceptable to use dark humour? And after writing the script, it really made me think about it, so I hope you enjoy.
And then go fuck yourself.
And also, quick warning, naturally, as this video is about dark humour, there are a few jeez, what the fuck? I could be in like 5 Guinness World Record books if I was offended by that many things. Now first, what is dark humour? Well, if you were to break down comedy into basic theory points, it's actually very easy to see what aspects make up a good joke. Almost every joke can be split into one of 3 categories. Hey, why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side. Shock. That's the, oh, I didn't expect that joke. Cool. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because the dumbass forgot how to get home. Prejudice. That's mean to that person. How did the chicken cross the road? Because he shat himself and needed new pants. Or fart, which is, well, that was inappropriate. Okay, I've got the humour of a 12-year-old. And from there on, you can also break it down into what actually is the main part of the specific joke. You've got the setup, which builds an expectation for people to believe in, and then you have the twist, which makes people think that their expectation was completely wrong, spawning laughter. The reason that dark humour is so effective is it fulfills all the categories said before. Dark humour is shocking, it also has a prejudice, and it's also inappropriate. It satirizes people's tragedy and pain to create comedy. Now you might think, how can something that is mean, shocking, and inappropriate possibly be a good thing? Well, the answer is delivery and audience. 2 things that the Dream SMP has a shared version of. Let's take this to the realm of stand-up comedy, where dark humour is often prevalent. You see, comics like Jimmy Carr, among many, have been making dark jokes for decades. And the reason they get away with this is purely because they know the audience that they're delivering their jokes to and how to deliver the jokes to that audience. It explains how someone like Schlatt can get cancelled for saying the word gay, yet Jimmy Carr can laugh about the Holocaust. Let's look at an actually good stand-up comedy show, why don't we? This is a takeout of Russell Howard's show, in which he talks about a kid who is dying of cancer. Now, I recommend you watch the whole clip because I've completely butchered it with the editing. Sorry. But this serves as a meaningful example, because this is delivered in a way that the audience can agree with.
But the coolest person I met, and I met him last year, I met a 14-year-old boy. Parents sent me an email saying that their son was battling with cancer. Would I come to see him? I said, yeah, of course. So I went to see him, and he was really funny, properly funny. And his favourite joke of mine was a sketch called Mr. Dildo. Now, I'd forgotten that seminal piece of art. But basically, it was a sketch that involved me dressed in a 6-foot cock costume, chasing after old ladies. And the 5th time that I went to see him, he said to me, will you come to my funeral? And he looked at me with a really steely gaze and just went, don't be a dick. It's going to be amazing. I said, what do you mean? And he looked at me and went, it's going to be fancy dress. What do you want me to wear? And he went, I think you know. He wants me to wear a throbbing 6-foot cock costume to a 14-year-old boy's funeral. In case you're struggling to visualise that, this is the outfit he's deemed appropriate for me to wear.
Cancer is bad, and it makes light of that. And you know what that means.
He's not a bad person, he just made a joke. He's not a bad person, he just made a joke. This is a stupid callback to a stupid joke. This is a stupid callback to a
Really bad joke, to be honest.
If touching a nut kills you, you're supposed to die.
You know, I had a mullet when I originally made that joke. And now look at me, I got like Anxiety. So I am fairly certain that at some point in your life you've heard the term read the room. Now, whether that was a term that meant, look, this is an unfunny situation, don't try to make jokes, it's not funny. Maybe someone was trying to encourage you to read the script of a 2003 movie. Doesn't matter, you've probably heard that term. Now, I'm not trying to butcher every single thing in this video with definitions and theory, but read the room is a pretty important term. It means know your audience, know who you're saying your joke to. If you don't know your audience in almost every circumstance, you're bound to fail from the get-go. I mean, you wouldn't try to hold a pride parade next to the Kaaba. If you're unaware of who your audience is as people and who you're speaking to, your words will be misconstrued away from comedy and into insult, to racism. You'll hear me actually just use the word racism when I'm referring to dark humor. I'm just lazy. I know there's more categories in dark humor, but I'm just very white. Now that brings up something interesting. Social media is a death trap for comedians. For one reason. It's virtually impossible to know your audience. I mean, a stand-up comedy gig, fair enough. You have a whole auditorium of people who have paid for their ticket to come and see you. They chose to see you. But on the internet, not as lucky. In fact, it's almost random chance on some sites like TikTok or Instagram if you're on the explore page. I mean, YouTube there's a bit more leniency because you just don't click on the video, but some sites, you don't even get a choice whether you see it or not. Social media is so massive and diverse that content can get pushed into the wrong audience, and then suddenly the content is seen as evil or crude when that was never the intention. One of my favorite sayings from Jordan Peterson is when he's asked if he's a Christian, he says, "I act as if God exists." And I think that's important because we always say to someone, "Are you this? Are you that? You're this, you're that." And in response, you can say anything at all. Like, I could say I'm something right now, and that doesn't necessarily make me that thing. Like, I could say something ridiculous, like, I'm 5'3". Like, I'm not 5 foot. Fuck. But just saying you're something doesn't make you something. It's your actions. It's what happens with your identity. That's what makes you a person. And if the context of your actions are removed from your words become the only defining feature. And that means it's up to you to know the background or context to whatever your words say. You wouldn't say something that you don't know any of the context behind. Like, we cringe at people on Facebook who put memes out that they have no idea what they're talking about or they're just dumb. Like, imagine a teacher who tried to make a racism PSA but using skateboarding when they've never skated in their life.
Hey kids, I want to talk to you about racism. You see, racism is like wearing a helmet. It's only cool and gnarly if you're doing it ironically. Anyway, I'm gonna go see where the bitches are at. Kickflip!
Don't worry, by the way, I wasn't referring to women when I said, let's see where the bitches are. I would never refer to women as bitches. I was referring to men. No, by the way, that sketch was a joke. I am a real skater. I wear, Thrasher and shit, surfs up, dude. There are a lot of people who try to attempt to use dark humor in many circumstances, and a lot of people don't see it as something they need to be careful with. They see it almost as a thing that they can easily do. It's like they don't recognize the bodies in the water. They don't recognize the pain that people go through. Now, here's an example. I was recently on a group chat on Instagram where I had a conversation with someone, and they said this. It's a bit of a weird sentence, isn't it? Now, at first I was like, geez, I wish Hitler had the same mindset. And also, how can you be sometimes racist? Like, you're either racist or you're not. Segregation, racist. Piano, not racist. Hiring people based on race, that's racist. Grammarly ads. You know, to be fair, I'm actually not so sure because they do love to cover black people's faces with conveniently placed monitors. I'm joking, don't start anything. Now, obviously the person I was referring to before, the person who sent this text, they weren't actually saying, hey, I sometimes just despise other races. They were talking about comedy. So I replied to them like a Reddit atheist who's trying to grab the last slither of dominance they have left, and I wrote a paragraph. What I said simply was, dark humor isn't necessarily racism. Like I said before, it's your actions that determine whether you're a racist or not. Your words don't necessarily always reflect that. That's why even when the circumstances weren't in comedy, people still got away with things. I mean, PewDiePie has gotten away relatively scot-free, and hey, I was a massive PewDiePie fan. And hey, I out of all people was a massive PewDiePie fan. I made a full video talking about PewDiePie VT series. I spammed people's emails at my school with sub to PewDiePie. It was weird. But let's be fair, how did PewDiePie get away with that? It wasn't a joke. He just straight up said it. He went... But he clearly got off because his actions contrasted what he said. It was clear to people that he wasn't necessarily a bad person. He just said a slur. There's a lot to talk about in this topic, and it's practically impossible for me to be able to talk about this entire subject in just one video. So that's why I'm trying to compact it into these smaller pieces. But one thing that is important to bring up is offense.
Palestinian passports under occupation, do they just put Israel?
Now, I want to make it clear that when I talk about offensiveness in jokes and the nature of offense in comedy, I'm not just talking about when someone sees or hears a joke and they just go, I didn't really find that funny, but it could be offensive to someone else, therefore, it's offensive. That's not what I'm talking about. In those cases, no one cares. But in this case, what I would like to talk about is when a joke is purely devised to use someone's pain as a punchline. It is only a joke because that person is upset. It's one of the reasons why many people have a distaste to dark humor, and rightfully so under that conjecture. If dark humor is commonly used in a lazy way to just put somebody down, then there's nothing funny about that. The point of comedy is to make someone laugh. You're doing the opposite. Some people like to then take that idea and throw away dark humor as a whole, get rid of the whole thing, denigrate anything that has to do with it. But that's dangerous. That's dangerous because there are some people who need humor to cope with issues in their lives. There are so many stories of people in war cracking gags with each other. Maybe when you go to hospital and, the person you're with, they're the one keeping you happy and smiling, making jokes about a horrible situation. Dark humor is important. And most people bubble it down to this basic level of humor is subjective, but it's more than that. People are subjective. Offensiveness is subjective. If somebody doesn't like a joke, fair play to them. It's up to them. But you cannot write out an entire community saying that the entirety of it can't handle it. I once saw a TikTok that said that all gay people cannot handle gay jokes. They hate them. They feel depressed every time they hear a gay joke. Bullshit. I mean, if there's one thing I've learnt over my time on the internet, I have learnt that the gay community aren't all a group of pussies, as some people like to make it out, and that's the same with all different groups. Every single group, no matter your age, race, religion, sexuality, colour, you name it, nothing matters. There is always the extremes of the group, the lows of the group. Every group has that. Offense is subjective. There are so many amazing comedians out there, There's comedians that are black, white, Asian, gay, straight, white, male. Did I say white there twice? Jeez, that shows my privilege. Am I white? Yes. Dark humor isn't a lazy. It isn't using someone as a butt of a gag. It's a skill. It's a skill some people are clever with. That's when dark humor thrives. I have a general rule when it comes to dark humor. Make sure that the joke is more funny than it is rude. I have heard countless jokes against Christianity, and being a Christian, I've never found it offensive. In fact, I found it funny. It's comics like Bo Burnham, Jimmy Carr, Ricky Gervais, Russell Howard. They set up their jokes and they're clever with it. That's what makes them great. They're not just saying, haha, women are trash, lol. That's not funny, that's rude. Dark humor is the skill to create comedy out of pain, to spark a laugh, not a tear. Dark humor is a skill to satirize, to critique, to reinvent. As Molière once said, dark humor, humor, is the ability to critique men and correct them through amusing them. Thank you.